You are reading this on a screen. You have probably been on a screen for the last several hours. Maybe you woke up and the first thing you did before getting out of bed, before drinking water, before saying a word to another human being, was reach for your phone. You opened something, you scrolled, and then you kept scrolling. Not because anything particularly interesting was happening, just because stopping felt harder than continuing. At some point today, your eyes felt like sandpaper. Your neck started to ache in a way that felt permanent. You got into an argument in a comment section with someone you will never meet about something that will not matter in 4 days. You watched a video, then another, then 12 more, and you cannot remember a single one of them. Your brain felt full and empty at the same time, stuffed with content and somehow completely hollow. That feeling has a name, and it is not just tiredness. It is not just laziness. Something is genuinely happening to your brain, chemically, neurologically, physically, and it has been happening quietly every single day. The fix is embarrassingly simple, and your body already knows it. It has been trying to tell you for months. Go outside, touch some grass, feel something real. Not because it sounds nice, not because some wellness influencer told you to, because your nervous system is running on borrowed time, and the most ancient, effective reset button available to you costs nothing and is right outside your door. If your brain deserves to understand itself, subscribe to Freud Mind, because we are about to get into exactly what screens are doing to you, why your body is begging you to step outside, and what you can do about it starting today. Let us start with the scroll. You pick up your phone with a specific intention. Check a message, look something up, set an alarm. 30 seconds later, you're watching a video of someone reacting to another video of someone reacting to a clip from a show you have never seen. You did not decide to go there. You just ended up there. And this is not a coincidence. It is not a personal failing. It is engineering. Every major platform you use, every feed, every reel, every autoplay function is designed by teams of engineers and behavioral psychologists whose entire job is to make sure you do not stop. The scroll is infinite. The content refreshes constantly. The algorithm watches what makes your thumb pause, even for a fraction of a second, and feeds you more of exactly that. It is a feedback loop built in a lab and refined over years, and it is targeting the oldest, most vulnerable parts of your brain. Here is the mechanism. Every time you see something novel, something new, surprising, or emotionally charged, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of anticipation and reward. It is what drives you to seek, to explore, to want. Under normal circumstances, dopamine is released when you eat, when you connect with someone, when you accomplish something meaningful. It is a reward for doing things that helped your ancestors survive. The scroll hacks this system completely. It delivers microdoses of novelty at a rate that no natural environment could ever match. A new face, a surprising statistic, an outrageous opinion, a cute animal, a shocking clip. Every swipe is a tiny dopamine trigger, not enough to fully satisfy, just enough to keep you seeking the next one. This is sometimes called the variable reward schedule, and it is the same psychological mechanism that makes slot machines so difficult to walk away from. You are not addicted to your phone. You are addicted to what your phone might show you next, and over time, this rewires things. The brain is not a static organ. It changes constantly based on what you repeatedly do and experience, a property called neuroplasticity. When you train any behavior, the neural pathways associated with that behavior get stronger. When you neglect a behavior, those pathways weaken. This is true for playing an instrument, learning a language, building physical strength. And it is equally true for scrolling. When you spend hours every day consuming rapid-fire short-form content, your brain adapts. It gets better at processing fast, shallow stimulation. And in doing so, it gets worse at everything that requires slow, sustained attention. Reading long articles becomes harder. Sitting through a full film without checking your phone becomes harder. Having a conversation without mentally drifting becomes harder. Following a single train of thought all the way to its conclusion, genuinely difficult. This is what people mean when they talk about a foggy brain. It is not a metaphor. It is a real neurological shift. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for sustained attention, rational thinking, planning, and impulse control, gets less activation when it is constantly being bypassed by the dopamine-seeking scroll behavior. You are essentially training your brain to skip the part that thinks deeply and go straight to the part that just reacts. And the content itself accelerates this. Short videos designed to hook you in the first 2 seconds. Headlines engineered to provoke an emotional reaction before you have processed the actual information. Comment sections built to maximize outrage because outrage drives engagement. Argument after argument with strangers who are also angry for reasons they cannot fully articulate. This is what some people call brain rot. And while the term is casual, the underlying idea is neurologically legitimate. Constant, low-quality stimulation degrades the quality of your attention, your memory consolidation, your capacity for nuance, and your tolerance for boredom, which is itself a crucial cognitive state. Boredom is where your brain does its maintenance work. When you are unstimulated, the default mode network activates, a brain network involved in self-reflection, memory consolidation, creative thinking, and long-term planning. Every time you reach for your phone the moment boredom arrives, you are cutting off that maintenance cycle. The work does not get done. The thoughts do not get processed. The memories do not get filed properly. You stay in a state of perpetual, low-grade mental clutteredness. Now let us talk about what the screen is doing to your body, because this is not just a brain problem. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone. Under normal circumstances, cortisol levels follow a natural daily rhythm, high in the morning to help you wake up and become alert, gradually declining through the day, low at night to allow rest and recovery. This rhythm is ancient. It is tied to light cycles, movement patterns, and the basic tempo of a human life lived in a natural environment. Screens destroy this rhythm in multiple ways simultaneously. The blue light emitted by your phone, laptop, and television screen directly suppresses melatonin production. Melatonin being the hormone that signals to your body that it is time to wind down and sleep. When you use screens in the evening, your brain reads the blue light as daylight and actively works against sleep onset. You lie in bed feeling wired and alert even when you are exhausted. You fall asleep later. You sleep lighter. You wake up less restored. And the next morning, running on poor sleep, your cortisol response is dysregulated, spiking higher, staying elevated longer, making you more reactive, more anxious, more prone to irritability and poor decision-making. Then you pick up your phone first thing in the morning and immediately expose yourself to news, notifications, arguments, and demands. Before your nervous system has had any time to calibrate, it is already in threat response mode. Cortisol floods in. Your brain shifts into a defensive, reactive state, and you spend the rest of the day operating from that baseline, slightly on edge, slightly overwhelmed, slightly unable to think clearly, wondering why everything feels harder than it should. There is also the postural damage, which almost nobody talks about seriously enough. The position most people hold while using a phone, head dropped forward, shoulders rounded, spine curved, places enormous additional strain on the cervical spine. For every inch your head tilts forward, the effective weight your neck muscles must support increases dramatically. The average adult head weighs around 10 to 12 pounds in a neutral position. Drop it 30 degrees forward and your neck is effectively supporting 40 or more pounds. For hours, every day. This creates chronic tension in the neck and upper back, restricts blood flow to the brain, contributes to tension headaches, and over time can alter the natural curve of the spine. And then there are your eyes. The eye is not designed for extended, close focus work on a bright light-emitting surface. When you read a screen, your blink rate drops dramatically, from the normal 15 to 20 times per minute down to 5 or 6. This dries the surface of the eye, creates irritation and fatigue, and contributes to something called digital eye strain, a cluster of symptoms including blurred vision, headaches, and sensitivity to light that a growing number of people experience as a daily baseline and have simply accepted as normal. None of this is normal. Here is where the grass comes in, and not as a metaphor. Natural environments have a measurable, documentable, physiologically real effect on the human nervous system. This is not opinion. This has been studied extensively. Researchers in Japan developed a practice called shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, and the data behind it is substantial. Spending time in a natural environment, trees, grass, open sky, birdsong, the smell of earth, reduces cortisol levels, lowers blood pressure, slows heart rate, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the branch responsible for rest, digestion, and recovery. The body shifts from fight or flight into rest and restore, a shift that many people living predominantly indoor, screen-heavy lives rarely fully make. Natural light is categorically different from artificial light. Sunlight exposure in the morning triggers a healthy cortisol awakening response, a sharp, natural spike that gives you genuine alertness without anxiety, and simultaneously sets your internal body clock for the day. Sunlight also drives serotonin production. Serotonin being a neurotransmitter central to mood regulation, social bonding, and the sense of calm well-being that most people are chasing through their phones and never quite finding there. When you are outside, your visual system does something it almost never gets to do indoors. It focuses at distance. The muscles that control your eye lens, which have been held in a constant near-focus position for hours in front of screens, finally get to relax. Your field of vision expands. Peripheral awareness increases. This is not a small thing. There is genuine research suggesting that regular exposure to natural outdoor environments, and specifically the practice of looking at distant horizons, may help regulate the development of myopia in children and reduce eye fatigue in adults. The ground itself matters. Walking on uneven natural surfaces, grass, soil, gravel, sand, activates small stabilizer muscles throughout the foot, ankle, leg, and core that are completely dormant when you are sitting or walking on flat indoor floors. This gentle, varied physical engagement sends proprioceptive signals back to the brain, information about where your body is in space, that contributes to alertness, coordination, and a grounded sense of physical presence. There is even emerging research into what some scientists call the bioelectric grounding effect, the idea that direct skin contact with the earth may influence inflammatory markers in the body. The research here is early, but the broader point is solid. Your body was designed to be in contact with the physical world, and when it is deprived of that contact for too long, things start to drift. But let us be honest, not everyone has easy access to a forest. Not everyone lives near a park. Some people are in cities, in office buildings, in environments where touching literal grass is not a daily option. This does not mean you are stuck. The principles behind the grass are what matter, and most of them can be approximated indoors with deliberate practice. The first and most important micro-habit is the 20-20-20 rule, and it is specifically for your eyes. Every 20 minutes of screen time, look at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. This gives the focusing muscles of your eye a reset. It is not a full solution, but it is a genuine physiological intervention, and it takes almost no effort to implement. Set a recurring alarm if you need to. The 20 seconds feels awkward at first, staring at a wall or out a window while nothing is happening. But that awkwardness is just your brain objecting to the absence of stimulation, which is itself a sign of how badly the reset is needed. The second principle is movement frequency. Sitting for long periods is genuinely harmful in ways that feel almost too mundane to be true, but the research is clear. Prolonged static sitting reduces circulation, particularly in the lower body, decreases metabolic activity, increases inflammatory markers, and contributes to lower back pain and hip flexor tightening that then affects gait, posture, and spinal alignment. The recommendation that comes up repeatedly in the research is simple. Do not sit for more than 45 minutes to 1 hour without standing and moving, even briefly. A 2-minute walk. Standing and doing 10 slow neck rolls. Walking to get water. Anything that breaks the static posture and gets blood moving. Speaking of water, dehydration is an underrated factor in the foggy brain experience. Your brain is approximately 75% water. Even mild dehydration, a level you might not consciously notice as thirst, measurably impairs concentration, short-term memory, and mood. People who spend long hours at screens often forget to drink water entirely, and the cognitive dulling they attribute to tiredness or overstimulation is partly just the brain running low on its most basic requirement, a simple rule. Keep water on your desk and drink it before you are thirsty. Thirst is a late signal. By the time you feel it, you are already mildly dehydrated. Posture deserves its own serious attention. The way you hold your body is not just a physical issue. It has direct neurological consequences. Research in embodied cognition has established that body posture influences brain state in measurable ways. Slumped, collapsed posture is associated with increased activity in brain regions related to low mood, reduced energy, and passive withdrawal. Upright, open posture is associated with greater alertness, more confident cognitive functioning, and even changes in hormonal output. Your body and brain are in continuous two-way conversation, and if you are spending 8 hours a day folded into a screen-watching posture, your brain is receiving a constant signal that says, low energy, low alertness, low engagement. Simple corrections make a real difference. Your screen, whether phone or monitor, should be at eye level, not below it. This single change eliminates the head-forward neck strain that causes most screen-related upper back and headache issues. Your feet should be flat on the floor. Your shoulders should be back and down, not hunched toward your ears. And critically, your lower back should have support. The natural inward curve of the lumbar spine tends to flatten when sitting unsupported for long periods, loading the discs unevenly and creating the chronic dull ache in the lower back that millions of people have normalized as just part of adult life. If you do not have access to outside and you need a movement reset, these are things you can actually do in a small space in under 5 minutes. 5 slow neck circles in each direction, moving the head gently through its full range of motion, pausing where tension lives. 10 shoulder rolls backward, which counteract the forward rounding that builds up from screen use. A simple doorway chest stretch, placing both forearms on a doorframe and gently leaning forward until you feel the chest and front of the shoulders open. 20 slow bodyweight squats, which wake up the glutes and hip flexors that become dormant during long sitting sessions. And finally, 10 slow, deep, diaphragmatic breaths, breathing fully into the belly rather than shallow chest breathing, which directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system and begins the shift from cortisol-driven reactive mode into a calmer baseline. These are not complicated. They are not a fitness program. They are the minimum viable movement that your body needs to function at a level close to what it was designed for. There is something worth sitting with here, and that is the question of what you are actually looking for when you reach for the phone. Most of the time, it is not information. It is not connection. It is something more like relief. Relief from boredom, from discomfort, from an uncomfortable emotion, from the anxiety of doing nothing, from the low-grade hum of a life that sometimes feels too quiet. The phone is available, immediate, and it delivers something, a sensation, a distraction, a momentary sense of being entertained or informed or involved in something larger. It feels like filling a gap. But here is what the data consistently shows. Passive scrolling, the most common form of phone use, does not reduce anxiety or low mood. It temporarily distracts from it. And when the scrolling stops, the original discomfort is still there, often slightly amplified, accompanied now by the additional cognitive fatigue of having processed hours of rapid-fire content. The gap does not get filled. It stays the same size, or grows, while you keep pouring content into it. The natural environment does something fundamentally different. Studies consistently show that exposure to natural settings reduces rumination, the repetitive, looping, self-critical thinking that underlies much of anxiety and depression. Researchers at Stanford found that people who walked for 90 minutes in a natural setting showed significantly decreased activity in the sub-genual prefrontal cortex, a brain region associated with rumination, compared to people who walked the same distance in an urban environment. The natural setting was not just pleasant, it was neurologically different. There is a concept in environmental psychology called attention restoration theory, the idea that natural environments engage what researchers call involuntary attention, a soft, effortless form of attention that does not deplete the way directed attention does. When you are outside, watching light move through leaves, hearing water, tracking a bird across the sky, your attention is gently held without effort. It is the opposite of screen engagement, which demands constant, active, rapid attention switching. The natural environment lets the directed attention system rest and restore. When you come back inside, your focus is sharper, your mood is calmer, your capacity for patience is meaningfully higher. This is why a 20-minute walk outside can feel like it resets something fundamental. The argument is not that screens are evil. The argument is not that technology is destroying humanity. The argument is simply this: your brain evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to function in a physical world, with natural light, with movement, with varied sensory input, with periods of genuine quiet. In the span of about 15 years, the average person has shifted to spending the majority of their waking hours in front of screens, consuming content at a pace and volume that has no precedent in human history. The brain has not caught up. It cannot catch up that fast. The result is a growing mismatch between what your nervous system needs and what your daily environment provides, and that mismatch shows up as the foggy brain, the flat mood, the chronic mild anxiety, the attention that slips, the sleep that does not restore, the neck that always hurts, the eyes that always burn. The vague sense that something is off without being able to name exactly what. You know what it is now, and the correction is not complicated, even if it requires some intention. Go outside when you can. Let your eyes adjust to natural light. Let your attention rest on something that is not a screen. Move your body every hour. Fix your posture before it fixes you. And the next time you are about to pick up your phone out of habit rather than need, pause for just one moment and ask yourself what you are actually looking for. Because the answer will tell you something useful about what your brain and body actually need right now. Your brain is one of the most extraordinary things that has ever existed. It deserves better than what most of us give it on a daily basis. Subscribe to Freud Mind.